What I am about to share might change the way you look at that little machine sitting on your table right now. You trust it to tell you the truth about your heart. But I have to tell you something difficult. There is a very high chance, nearly 70%, that the number you wrote down in your logbook this morning was wrong. And when I finally reveal mistake number 1, a habit so common that you probably did it today without even thinking, you are going to understand why so many folks your age end up rushing to the emergency room in a panic over a blood pressure spike that wasn't even real. I am not trying to scare you, but I need you to know. This simple error could be the reason you are taking medication you don't actually need. Before you even touch the monitor, you need to understand the single most critical fact about your cardiovascular system. Blood pressure is not a fixed number. It is a dynamic, living response to your body's internal state. And ignoring this reality leads directly to mistake number 11, the error that trapped Margaret. She wasn't running a marathon. She was simply walking to the end of her driveway to collect the mail. It felt effortless. It felt harmless. But inside her body, a physiological storm was taking place. Her heart rate was elevated, her blood vessels were dilated, and her sympathetic nervous system was firing to support that movement. By sitting down and measuring immediately, Margaret wasn't capturing her resting pressure. She was capturing her active pressure. The result was catastrophic. A reading falsely elevated by 30, 40, even 50 points. Because her doctor trusted those numbers, Margaret was prescribed heavy medication she didn't need, leading to dizziness, fainting, and a near miss with a fall that could have ended her independence. But physical movement isn't the only invisible trigger. Mistake number 10 is even more insidious because people do it intentionally, thinking they are being healthy. It's about your bladder. Let's talk about Harold. He was drinking water faithfully, but he was measuring every morning with a full bladder. Here is the physiology that Harold didn't know. A full bladder creates significant pressure in the abdomen. This pressure compresses blood vessels, forcing your body to constrict arteries and spike your heart rate just to maintain control. This silent stressor adds 10 to 15 points to your reading every single morning. The lesson here is absolute. Your device cannot separate your blood pressure from your body's stress. You have to do it for the machine. The rule is simple, but it is non-negotiable. You must return your body to a true baseline before the cuff ever inflates. This means emptying your bladder completely and then sitting in a chair with absolute stillness, no phone, no talking, no shifting for at least 5 full minutes. You are not just waiting. You are allowing your cardiovascular system to reset. Without this reset, you aren't measuring your health. You are measuring your noise. Here is the expansion of point number 2, written with the specific narrative cadence, authority, and psychological structure analyzed previously, optimized for text-to-speech performance. But achieving internal silence is only the first step. Once your body is quiet, you must confront a new set of enemies, the invisible laws of physics. And this brings us to mistake number 9. An error so subtle that it corrupts the readings of millions of people who believe they are doing everything right. You might be sitting still, but are you truly silent? Let's look at Diane. She followed every rule we've discussed so far, but she made one fatal assumption. She thought she could chat on the phone while the cuff inflated. It seems harmless, doesn't it? It's just talking. But here is the engineering reality your doctor never explained. Home monitors are not listening for your heartbeat like a human ear. They are delicate precision instruments designed to detect microscopic pressure waves in your artery. When Diane speaks, her diaphragm contracts and her chest cavity vibrates. To the machine's sensitive sensors, those internal vibrations look exactly like pulse data. The device does not know you are speaking. It does not flash an error message. Instead, it misinterprets your voice as blood pressure, adding 15 to 20 points of noise to your reading. You get a terrifying number, not because your heart is failing, but because you refused to be silent. The sensor demands absolute stillness. However, even if you are silent, There is another force that can destroy your accuracy instantly. Gravity. This is mistake number 8, and it is purely a matter of hydrostatics. Blood pressure is, quite literally, the pressure of a fluid within a column. If you change the angle of that column, you change the pressure. Consider Thomas, who was ready to throw his monitor in the trash because it kept giving him bizarrely low readings. The culprit wasn't the machine. It was his arm. Thomas held his arm out in the air, unsupported, hovering above his heart level. When your arm is elevated, your blood has to fight uphill against gravity to reach the cuff. The pressure drops. The reading is falsely low. Conversely, if you let your arm hang down by your side, gravity pulls the blood downward, adding the weight of that fluid column to your arteries. The result? A reading that is falsely high by up to 25 points. You cannot fight gravity, so you must neutralize it. The cuff must be at the exact level of your heart, the midpoint of your chest. Your arm must be resting on a table or a cushion, completely supported, so that no muscle is tensed and gravity is no longer a variable. Only then are you measuring your body, rather than the weight of your blood. You have silenced your body and neutralized gravity. But now, you face the most common point of failure in the entire process, the physical interface between the machine and your skin. This brings us to mistake number 7, a misunderstanding that hurts thousands of patients like Ruth. Ruth assumed that the cuff in the box would fit her. It didn't. Her arm was petite, and the standard cuff was wrapping around her too loosely. When a cuff is too large, it distributes pressure over a wide area, tricking the sensor into registering blood flow too early. The result? A falsely low reading that hid her dangerous hypotension. Conversely, if your arm is larger and the cuff is too small, it acts like a vice, forcing the machine to overinflate just to stop the blood flow, giving you a terrifyingly high number that isn't real. You must measure your arm circumference. If you are outside the range marked on the cuff, the machine is lying to you. But even the perfect cuff size becomes a weapon if you commit mistake number 1. We have arrived at the single most catastrophic error in home monitoring, the mistake that compounds every other error we have discussed, the mistake of placing the cuff over clothing. I see this every day. A patient sits down, rolls up their sleeve, and thinks they are ready. They are wrong. When you roll up a sleeve, you create a tight ring of bunched fabric that acts as a tourniquet on your upper arm. This artificial constriction spikes your pressure before the machine even starts. And do not think a thin shirt is safe. It is not. Remember, the sensor is listening for acoustic vibrations. Fabric acts as a muffler. It dampens the signal. It hides the precise moment the blood begins to flow again. This can swing your reading by 20 to 30 points in either direction. You are essentially blindfolding the machine. The rule is absolute and non-negotiable. The cuff must touch completely bare skin. No rolled sleeves, no thin fabrics, just skin. If there is a barrier, there is no accuracy. You have stripped away the fabric and ensured the perfect mechanical fit. You have mastered the physics of the measurement. But now, you must master the timing. Because even a technically perfect measurement, taken at the wrong moment, tells you a lie. This leads us to mistake number 6, inconsistent timing. Many patients treat blood pressure monitoring like a random spot check, but your body runs on a precise biological clock known as the circadian rhythm. Blood pressure is not a flat line. It is a wave. It naturally surges when you wake up, peaks in the afternoon, and drops significantly while you sleep. Franklin didn't understand this. He measured whenever he remembered 6 a.m. one day, 2 p.m. the next. His log showed wild, terrifying fluctuations that looked like a medical crisis. But his blood pressure wasn't unstable. His timing was. He was comparing his morning surge to his evening dip and panicking at the difference. To get data your doctor can actually use, you must stop random testing. You need a rigid schedule. Measure once in the morning before food or medication, and once in the evening. You must compare apples to establish a reliable baseline. However, even a perfect schedule will fail if your environment is toxic. This brings us to mistake number 4, measuring while stressed. This is perhaps the most insidious error because it creates a vicious feedback loop. You worry about your blood pressure, so your body releases cortisol and adrenaline. These stress hormones physically constrict your blood vessels to prepare you for a fight. Your pressure spikes. You see the high number, you panic more, and the number goes higher. Edward fell into this trap every morning. He would sit down to measure while watching the news. The stories of crime, politics, and disaster triggered his sympathetic nervous system without him even realizing it. He wasn't measuring his resting heart health. He was measuring his emotional reaction to the world. That morning news routine added nearly 30 points to his reading. This is white coat syndrome happening in your own living room. To fix this, you must control the environment before you control the device. Turn off the television. Silence your phone. Sit in a quiet room and engage in deep, slow breathing. If you measure during a moment of stress, the data is not just high, it is medically useless. You have mastered the timing and neutralized your stress response. Now, you are finally ready to press the start button. But if you stop after the machine beeps once, you are still getting the wrong answer. This brings us to mistake number 2, relying on a single snapshot. Blood pressure is not a static sculpture. It is a fluctuating tide. Vincent drove himself crazy because his daily snapshot was chaotic. He didn't realize that the very act of the cuff tightening creates a physiological reaction. Your body is surprised by the compression. It resists. Therefore, the first reading is almost always an artifact, a throwaway number caused by the mechanical squeeze of the device. It is often falsely high. To filter out this noise, you must adopt the medical gold standard. Take 3 consecutive readings, sitting quietly for 1 to 2 minutes between each one. Ignore the first reading entirely. It is trash. Then, average the second and third readings. That mathematical average is the only number that represents your true clinical status. It smooths out the minute-to-minute volatility and reveals the truth. But accurate data is useless if it vanishes into thin air. Mistake number 5 is trusting your memory instead of a logbook. The human brain is a terrible data recorder. It suffers from recall bias. You will remember the scary high number from Tuesday and the perfect low number from Friday, but you will forget the 10 normal readings in between. Your doctor cannot treat a feeling. They need a data set. You must write down the date, time, and that calculated average every single time. And before you even settle into that routine, you must ensure you are measuring the correct side of your body. Mistake number 3 is failing to check both arms. Patricia measured her left arm for years and slept soundly. Thinking she was healthy, she wasn't. Her right arm was consistently 20 points higher, a silent, screaming red flag for arterial blockage and stroke risk that she missed completely. You must check both arms initially. If there is a consistent difference of more than 10 points, you aren't just looking at blood pressure. You are looking at a warning sign of vascular disease that needs immediate attention. You now possess the individual components of accuracy. You know to check both arms to rule out arterial disease, and you understand the necessity of averaging your readings. But knowing these rules in isolation is not enough. You cannot pick and choose which laws of physiology to respect. To transform your home monitor from a source of confusion into a life-saving medical tool, you must integrate every single correction into a unified, non-negotiable regimen. We call this the gold standard protocol. This protocol is the convergence of everything we have learned. It begins before you even sit down, avoiding caffeine, emptying your bladder, and creating a silent environment. It continues with your posture. Feet flat, back supported, arm resting at heart level. It demands the discipline of the cuff, sized correctly and placed strictly on bare skin. And finally, It requires the rigor of data. Measuring twice daily at consistent times, taking 3 readings, discarding the first, and averaging the last 2. This is not just a routine. It is a medical procedure. To understand why this rigor is worth the effort, we have to look at George. George was the perfect storm of measurement error. He committed every mistake in the book, rolling up his sleeves, measuring while distracted, ignoring his body positioning. Because of this, his readings were consistently, catastrophically high. His doctors, trusting the data George provided, diagnosed him with severe hypertension. They prescribed heavy medication. George spent his retirement feeling dizzy, weak, and lethargic, convinced his heart was failing. But his heart wasn't failing. His technique was. When we stripped away the variables of error and applied the gold standard protocol, the truth was revealed. George's hypertension was a measurement artifact. His actual blood pressure was healthy. He was being treated for a disease he didn't have. By correcting his technique, he was able to reduce his medication and eliminate the dizziness that had plagued him for years. This is the ultimate lesson. Accuracy is not just about numbers on a screen. It is about your quality of life. When you eliminate the mistakes, you reveal your true health status. This allows your doctor to treat the actual patient standing in front of them, rather than treating the errors they made at home. That clarity is the difference between a medical emergency and peace of mind. Before you go, take a moment to click the video on the left to continue learning, or the video on the right that YouTube chose just for you. And if this helped you today, remember to subscribe for more gentle, science-based health guidance.